Hey, good morning everyone, and it is mid-September. The nights are getting cool. We're under 50 for most nights, and the days are getting cool too. And we're also getting increased humidity, and with all of those factors, it is time to call it quits for the bottle gourd project for the year. So today we're going to do the final harvest and tear down, and I'm super excited because today I get to dig up the super medieval one planted in that basket and see what the roots look like. So just real quick, looking at the two of them here. So this one over here in the tomato cage, that's my modern planted one. Obviously not doing very well at it at all. Really took the hit of the heat bubble that came through in June and just never really have been able to kick back or bounce back since then. And this one over here, this is the medieval style one on the hazel arbor, and it is doing fantastic, and it's really fun to see that this gigantic one here is the one that's in the basket. I just adore this basket thing. And then this one over here is just kind of traditional direct seeded ones here. But still, both of those much more vigor and fruit production than the modern one, or the modernly grown one. So let's jump in and take a closer look. So first we'll start with the modern one. You can tell the leaves are slightly corrotic. It got hit by white fly or spider mites, I think. But it did produce a lot of flowers. You can see them here. Although much more male flowers than female. Although, dun, 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 it's going to try to produce another female flower here. And then, this one behind it is also modernly grown as a transplant that we put out from one that was grown in a 3.5-inch pot into the ground. And it's doing a little bit better, maybe a little bit more shade, so it wasn't quite affected with the heat bubble. There's one last gourd left. It is producing some smaller ones. I kind of pushed the cutting back of all the gourds and pulling it out and calling it done because I saw these little ones and I thought they might be fun to try to pickle, but a lot of them are brown inside, so I think the cool night air is really affecting things. And the medieval bed, something I just absolutely adore about this one. So these shorter ones, these are the ones that were just direct seeded. Oh, we got a little bee saying hi to the flowers. The bees have really enjoyed these flowers, especially in the morning. But anyway, this one here is the direct seeded. It didn't grow quite as tall like this one here, which is the one that is grown in the basket, so direct or transplanted out in a basket. Not too sure if it's the basket, if it happened. I don't think it's the amount of poo. Don't think it's a difference in sun exposure or anything. I think it just comes down to being in that basket and the lack of transplant shock. Let's see, here's another bee. Num num num, morning breakfast time. So the medieval one, it produced a lot of nice, big, luscious fruits here. A few too many, so I'm still getting used to the concept of when to harvest these. So this one, you can tell it has a really hard skin, and they're not as good to eat when they have the hard skin, but what I'm finding. And so yeah, so I'm gonna pull it all out and see what's going on with that basket in the soil. Otherwise, the trellis worked pretty well. I think something that was taller and only one-sided would work much better, because trying to get inside here to harvest the different gourds is a little bit cumbersome, and so I think a single trellis would work well. Oh, a single-sided trellis, not this double A-frame thing. All in all, yay, basket planted in poo. It's a sleeping bee. So here's the trellis that I did in the hoop house, covered in plastic, to kind of do some season extension, and then let it go from there. Pulled back the plastic once our evening temperatures got pretty nice and warm. You can tell there's one, that really long cylindrical one. That's the Italian gourd that got really large. I mean, ridiculously large. This thing is astounding. Here's my hand for comparison. And then we have some that are just that beautiful bottle gourd shape. And these are pretty tasty to eat. Here's another little one hanging out here. And those did great. I really adore how it just grew up and over the trellis. Again, issues with spider mites, and it got kind of knocked back with the heat bubble. but I think we're doing pretty darn well. Another little bottle gourd. This one's so cute. So tiny. It's been fun to see them rest up against the hog panel here. I thought maybe it would cause a dent on the gourd, but it doesn't. It allows it to like kind of freely grow out, and so it didn't leave an impression. And then here's the container bowl style one. And these are doing great. These got a lot bigger than I was anticipating. Not as big as they can get. I don't know if that's a varietal or just our not so friendly bottle gourd climate here. Oh, but look, powdery mildew, spider mites, doom. It's definitely time to put these guys away for the season. And then you can tell I started cutting things back, and so there's some dead vines here. But a quick snapshot, if I can get in here, to the ladle gourd or dipper gourd style here. So those are doing great. There's some along in the back as well. I'm excited to give those a whirl. But yeah, so the trellis was lovely. It was really fun to hang out underneath. I could see why this would be a delight in medieval gardens. So that's what we have going on right now. It's been a really fun experiment, but now it's time to see what is in the basket. So I'm going to take all these down, start cutting them down, and then piling up all the vines, the vegetation matter on one big pile, and then pulling out the fruit that remains. Those that are container, keep those for containers, dry them out, and see what happens. And then the longer ones here, there are some recipes that call for gourd seeds. So I'm excited to see about preparing and utilizing gourd seeds as well. And there should be a ton, so many seeds in one of these larger Italian types to utilize. So I guess it's time to get some more coffee and get going with the day.